On today's show, how will the Denver Nuggets replace the depth and production of guys like Bruce Brown, Jeff Green, and Vlatko Cancar? What's going to be the most challenging thing for this Nuggets team trying to repeat and trying to defend their title this upcoming season? And who poses the biggest threat in the Western Conference to knock them out before they can get to the finals? It's all coming up right here at Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is about to kick off, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to win all season long because right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, and you'll get bonus bets for every single victory along the way. And you can use those bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, and so much more. Right now, take a look at the odds of Super Bowl winners this season. Kansas City Chiefs at plus 600. Philadelphia Eagles at plus 800, the Buffalo Bills at plus 900, and then rounding out the top five, you got the Bengals and the 49ers at plus 1,000 a piece. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Joining us now is the host of Locked On Nuggets, Matt Moore, who you can track down wherever you listen to your podcasts and on YouTube. Just search Locked On Nuggets. Now, Matt, we're going to dive into some of what needs to go right, what needs to happen, and what's going to be the most challenging part for the Nuggets to be able to defend their title this upcoming season, their chances to repeat. But first things first, they're going to be missing a few key pieces. Now, the first guy I want to talk about here, Vlatko Cancar, he wasn't a guy that played a ton of playoff minutes, but he was a key kind of depth piece for the Nuggets this past season. Reportedly suffered an ACL injury playing for Slovenia. How significant a loss is this for the Nuggets when you look at this kind of, the grueling 82-game slog that these teams have to make it through?
Yeah, I think the loss of Cancar is pretty significant here based off of the fact that the Nuggets banked their offseason approach, which was not by choice, it was forced, on we have guys in-house or we have brought in developmental prospects through the draft. And one of those players is Vlatko Cancar, who quite honestly had taken Jeff Green's spot in the rotation at one point in the season. I asked Michael Malone about the dynamics of that. And while Jeff was out, he said, no, I'm sitting Jeff down. Jeff took it totally professionally. Just think that Vlatko is going to give us a better chance tonight. And Jeff handled it well. Then Vlatko gets hurt. Jeff Green retakes his spot in the rotation and doesn't relinquish it. Plays pretty well during the playoffs. And a lot of what had kind of been considered to be why this would be okay that they lost Jeff Green and Bruce Brown was that, Jeff was actually a negative and the Vlatko minutes were actually pretty good next year. He provided a little bit of versatility in terms of being able to play either the 3 or the 4. He's got some defensive aptitude. He's a smart player. He plays very much in the style of how the Nuggets play with Nikola Jokic on the floor. So it's good to be able to replicate some of that. He's not Jokic, but he plays a very open, giving, move the ball type of style. He's not necessarily a ball hog in any sort of respect. Pretty efficient. So this was supposed to be a season where he could have backfilled into that forward role. And it just means that now not only are the Nuggets a little bit less deep with him having suffered the ACL injury in Euro play, in FIBA play, but it also means now that you are even less experienced because Cancar was one of the most experienced Nuggets in terms of time with the team on the roster. And now all of the young guys, it's basically Reggie Jackson and young dudes. And that can be a little bit of a problem when you're trying to repeat as an NBA champion.
Reggie Jackson just babysitting the Nuggets bench brigade pretty much at this point. So, you had the chance, Cancar could have filled in for Jeff Green, right? That would have been a nice way to just replicate that production and not necessarily be missing out so much on the loss of Jeff Green signing with the Houston Rockets. Who replaces these minutes then? Because you're not going to have Cancar, you're not going to have Jeff Green, and you also lost Bruce Brown, which that one felt like kind of a foregone conclusion. We knew a team was going to come in with a big-time offer, and the Nuggets were more than likely going to lose him, but those were two really key pieces during their title run.
Yeah, so it's going to be a lot of question marks, and the two biggest players I think to step in here are going to be Peyton Watson, second-year man, and Zeke Naji. Let's start with Watson first. Watson was a high upside prospect pick that Calvin Booth absolutely 100% believes in. Watson is also KD is his mentor. He's in with a bunch of NBA superstars. He runs in those circles. Watson showed very little in preseason, got sent to Grand Rapids, made huge strides, came in back to the roster in the second half of the season and filled in and had some real moments. He's got high defensive aptitude. His athleticism is off the charts. There's just a lot of holes in his game because he's so young and so inexperienced. And so he's going to be thrust into a much larger role this season. And if that goes sideways, don't be surprised if Denver is a team that looks to make in-season moves either through the buyout market or small trades around the margin for veterans to try and help out there. Zeke Naji is the other guy. And Naji has played well over the last couple of seasons. He's extremely versatile. Folks do not probably know this. He is a really adept defender. He's a player that you can switch out 1 through 5 on those pick and rolls and be able to defend at a high level. He's slight of build. He's added a lot of muscle the last 2 seasons. So rebounding can be a bit of an issue, but in terms of if you're wanting to play switch all, which the Nuggets do when Nikola Jokic is not on the floor, Naji's really good. He's got a good 3-point stroke. They messed with it a little bit last year, and he took a step backwards in terms of its consistency. It's looking better this summer. We'll see if that carries over into the season. But Naji's big problem has been health. Every single time that he started to gain some momentum in the rotation, he suffers an injury and misses time. And then it takes him, he doesn't necessarily get those minutes back because Michael Malone's like, I don't know if you're going to be around or not because of the injury status. So we're looking at a lot of these young players. The kind of outside hope here is Hunter Tyson, who is absolutely electric in summer league play. It's summer league play. We'll see what it looks like when he gets into training camp. But the options here, there are not proven answers in terms of how the Nuggets are going to replace Jeff Green. And now there's not proven answers in replacing Vlatko Cancar, who is supposed to help replace Jeff Green. So really, this Nuggets team is going to be even more reliant on their starting 5, and that's a team that had a deep playoff run with a lot of veterans on mileage that have, Jamal Murray is hoping to play in for Canada in the World Cup. A lot of questions here about how much depth Denver's really going to have this season.
What is, and maybe we already tackled this just with the lack of depth going into this next season, but what is going to be the most challenging part of this Nuggets team trying to repeat this upcoming season?
I mean, it's going to be the depth, because it's not just that the depth compromises their ability to win minutes where the starters aren't on the floor. And when we cover the Nuggets, we really just mean when Nikola Jokic isn't on the floor. The problem is that this impacts their ability to rest manage. It's harder. If Reggie Jackson sprains an ankle and Jamal Murray needs a night off, it's Jalen Pickett, 2nd-round pick. That's it. If Aaron Gordon sprains a knee and needs to miss a month of time, and Peyton Watson sprains an ankle, it's Hunter Tyson. There are not options on this roster because they lost Bruce Brown, because they lost Jeff Green, and because they're top heavy. This is the cost of having a starting 5 that makes 500. Their combined deals are $500 million, and they're arguably the best starting 5 in basketball. They just dominated on their way to 16-4 in winning the championship. But the cost of that, especially under this new CBA, is this lack of. So I expect Denver. I think they will go in. They'll find some hits, probably either Peyton Watson or Zeke Naji, maybe both, maybe one of the young guys, Hunter Tyson, Jalen Pickett, Julian Strother. One of those guys fills in. But they're probably also going to find areas where they simply do not have enough, and will be active, I think, in season in trying to find late additions to gear up for the playoffs, which is all that really matters for a team that's already won it and is this good going back.
The one silver lining to this, if you're trying to look at it, maybe a half glass full kind of way, is having these young guys kind of thrust into these roles and having these expectations placed on them such an early point in their careers, kind of trial by fire a little bit, right? Like, hey, you got to grow up right away because you need to be contributors on this team, because otherwise it's not going to work out for us. Last thing for you here, Matt. Right now, you look at the NBA offseason, the moves made, at least out in the Western Conference. We won't worry about the East quite just yet. Who in the West is the team best equipped to knock off the Nuggets right now?
That's an interesting question. And that's a way of saying I don't have like an immediate easy answer here. I don't think that there's an obvious team. I have concerns about the Warriors with their age. The Chris Paul trade was probably an addition, but if you take Jordan Poole and Dante DiVincenzo, I have some concerns given Paul's injury history and his durability, alongside how the starters have kind of started to slide a little bit as they get older. You look at the Suns, obviously they've got the firepower. Do they have the depth? Do they have as much? Can Frank Vogel get DeAndre Ayton back, kind of wired back in? I think it's a big.
It's just going to be a war of attrition between the Nuggets and Suns at some point. Which team's going to collapse first with lack of depth?
With lack of depth, it really is going to be an issue. I think that there's teams like Dallas and Memphis. Honestly, Memphis is probably the team that I would look at, because I think that Memphis is a team that everyone's kind of down on after the run. They recognize some of their problems, both with their half-court offense. They've made moves to kind of address that. And I think that this is an opportunity for, Ja to take a step forward after such a down step last year with all of the drama and everything else. Getting Steven Adams back really matters, and I'm expecting a huge season from Desmond Bane. So I actually kind of think that Memphis might be the sleeper team to watch in terms of actually being. It's weird to be a sleeper given they were the number 2 seed last year and were a really high seed the year before. But I do think that Memphis is underrated in its chances of winning the Western title.
How will these roster losses ultimately impact the Denver Nuggets and their chances to repeat this upcoming season? You'll have us covered for all of that and more over at Locked On Nuggets. Matt, I appreciate you stopping by Locked On NBA with me.
Thanks for having me.